Welcome to episode 23 of your podcast, Bonding and Beer. I am Rolando Nunez, and today's topic is MDP. Let's boogie, my friends. Let's go. What has Rolando been up to? It's quite interesting because I have been up to a few things and I have been drawing conclusions about a few other things. One conclusion that I have come to is that being a homeowner sucks. It sucks big time. My basement was flooded because my sump pump died. And of course, when the sump pump dies, there is no alarm, there is no beeping, there is no emergency, sound. You just, all of a sudden, you go down to the basement and it's flooded. Well, that happened, and so I had to call a plumber. I had to take care of business. So that's basically what I've been up to. So I know. And hopefully none of y'all have gone through this, and I hope you never do. This is something that you don't wish to anybody. I don't think that whether you like them or dislike anybody, you are going to wish them that the sump pump dies. I mean, maybe your washer and dryer, but definitely not the sump pump. You know what I'm saying? So, do I have any stories to share? Yes, I do. We just came back from the midwinter meeting. It was a very successful meeting for us. And one thing that I want to highlight was that during that meeting, a lot of people came to the booth, and we were offering that any of our followers, if they stop by the booth, they will get a coaster, a Bonding and Beer coaster. It's a little token of appreciation. And we ran out of coasters. So it was amazing. We had people from overseas. We had, people that were from around here in the Midwest, and we had people that came from all over the country, and it was super cool. Shout out to all of our followers and to all of the people that showed a little bit of appreciation just by stopping by and saying hello, and they got their little coaster. That was awesome. So remember to like, remember to comment, remember to subscribe. So today we're going to be talking about MDP, a functional monomer widely used in dentistry. But before we get any deeper, let's crack open this beer. Check this out. Let's go. Okay, today's beer is called Lil Lucy. Lil Lucy. This is from Church Street Brewing located in Itasca. So if you live here in Illinois, or at least if you are here in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, Church Street is quite popular. I think Church Street is popular all around the Chicago area. So this one is a Session Hazy IPA. This is a 5% alcohol content, right? And the description of the beer says tropical theme IPA with notes of pine, mango, and an array of berries, balanced with a touch of lactose and a modest grain bill. Being a hazy IPA, what we're going to expect is that it's not going to be a clear pour. You're going to see how, the haziness of it, and that's why it is in the description. Being an IPA, the expectation is to be bitter with an interesting aftertaste. And of course, we have all this vast array of different fruits. Okay, we got mango and berries. And of course, being an IPA, you're going to feel that floral, piney type of flavor or essence in the beer. So that is expected, okay? This is a session IPA. And the difference between a session IPA and a regular IPA is that a session IPA is kind of like a limited edition, okay? That's why it's a session, okay? So they make it in a limited amount. It's not, being produced on a regular basis. So if you like IPAs or if you like any beer and you find a session of that beer style that you like, it's always interesting to try it because they are going to be, surprisingly interesting and different. They do have a lower alcohol content, and that is one of the characteristics of a session IPA. Let's crack it open and see what's what. That sound, just a little bit, not a whole lot. There's a little bit of, I think this was normal. Nothing to it. We're going to pour it. I'm going to pour it right here on the table and pour it and try to be as professional as possible. I already screwed it up. I botched it. I'm getting a lot of foam here. Yes, totally botched. Jeremy, I botched it. It's okay. It's totally okay because this is what we do. Sometimes we are 100% professionals. Sometimes we are not. Let's take a sniff out of this. It smells fruity. There is definitely some tropical fruits in there. Mango being one of them. I can sense it. Just by cracking open the beer, you can sense the fruit, and in a good way. I've said before that I don't like fruity beers, but ever since I started doing this podcast, I've been just having beers that have been recommended by the people surrounding the podcast and by some of our followers. And I have to tell you, I don't dislike fruity beers, okay? I'm willing to try them, and some of them are really, really good. So I will encourage to get out of your comfort zone and try different things because that way is the only way to develop a palate. Let's try it open.
Sip, 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 sip.
Okay. It is bitter. It's got an interesting aftertaste, but I will give my review at the end. So let's get into today's topic. Come on, baby. So, like I said before, today's topic is MDP. And of course, I have a limited amount of time to talk as much as I can and as fast as I can about MDP. MDP is a functional monomer that is extremely versatile. And I want to say this many, many times during this episode. MDP is a versatile monomer. It has, it promotes adhesion to different substrates, okay? And I know other monomers do the same, but this one in particular is extremely interesting, okay? Now, MDP was developed by a company from Japan called Kuraray. They developed it. They introduced it into some of their formulations and formulations of different products like cements, primers, and adhesives. And they had a patent on it. Now, in the late 90s, early 2000s, a product from Kuraray became extremely popular all over the world. And it was an adhesive. If you're thinking about generations, we're talking about a 6th generation adhesive. And the product is called Clearfield SE Bond. And Clearfield SE Bond was a self-etching adhesive that is a 2-bottle system that contained MDP. And that had an impact on the bonding world because the reason to use a self-etching adhesive was to avoid post-op sensitivity. If you're interested to know about post-op sensitivity, we have a full episode on that. I'm not going to go into that topic specifically today. But self-etching, it has an impact on post-op sensitivity. It basically diminishes it or just mitigates it or eradicates it, okay? So Clearfield Bond comes into the market. They have MDP, and it is a very good adhesive, okay? It performs really well clinically. It probably was one of the first adhesive systems that in their IFU, they made it optional. So that is, they didn't call it selective etch, but they said for optimum bonding, etch the enamel with phosphoric acid. And it contained MDP. It proved great performance. Everybody wanted to start using MDP. You just couldn't because it was protected by patent. The patent expired. Everybody jumped to, and started developing products with MDP. It had proven that it has good clinical performance and it bonded really well to dentin. Here's the question. Oh, the MDP that is done by Curare is the original one. Everything else is a knockoff. Look, no one is synthesizing MDP. Everybody's buying MDP probably from the same 2 or 3 vendors in the world, okay? You buy MDP like you would buy any other monomer over the counter, and you incorporate it into your formula. It is the formula that's going to make a difference. It's not necessarily the MDP as a standalone functional monomer. You need to combine it with other things. So now that MDP is available to everybody, you have companies that are making cements with MDP, adhesives with MDP, and of course primers with MDP. And basically the era of universal bonding agents is born thanks to the expiration of the MDP patent. That's basically what happened, okay? Now you have every company out there trying to develop a universal bonding agent that contains MDP, okay? As you start doing the research, you are able to see how MDP works extremely well when it bonds to dentin, okay? Bonding to dentin, bonding to metal, and also bonding to zirconia, which at the time, bonding to zirconia was kind of like a myth. Nothing can bond to zirconia. Well, MDP can. It has been proven, it has been tested, it has been published. MDP will bond to zirconia. MDP containing products will bond to zirconia and also to metal. Adhesives and cements contain MDP. They will bond to zirconia, to metal, and also to the tooth structure. There is more research about MDP as a functional monomer. Materials that contain MDP can induce a phenomenon in the dentin. It's called nanolayering, which is the deposition of calcium salts and phosphates from the MDP. So it's theorized that this actually has an impact on the performance and durability of the adhesive layer. So all of this has been published. I'm not making this up, okay? All of this data supports the use of MDP, okay? All of this new formula that actually work supports the use of MDP as a functional monomer, as an adhesive promoting monomer, okay? But to me, bonding to the dentin in self-etch mode, other companies have used different monomers. It has been done. Bonding to metal has been deciphered from years ago. But bonding to zirconia, that's a different story.
Sip, sip, sip.
Bonding to zirconia is actually possible because of MDP. Bonding in a very predictable way, consistent way, and durable. We have veneers today made out of zirconia. The only way to bond to a zirconia veneer or a, let's say, non-retentive restoration made out of zirconia is because of MDP. Okay? And there are, areas of dentistry where superstructures are used, like tie bases and all these things. You can actually bond your zirconia to your titanium using MDP containing products. So there is supporting information, there is supporting research, and there is supporting clinical performance of MDP to justify the use of it in restorative materials, okay? So now you have a functional monomer that bonds to the tooth structure, to metal, to zirconia. And if you combine it with other things, maybe you can bond to more things. And I'll give you an example. Here at Bisco, we have this product called Z Prime. And Z Prime can be used to bond to zirconia, to bond to alumina, and I don't know how many people are still using alumina, but you can bond to alumina, you can bond to metal. But also, it contains other components such as bis-GMA and whatnot in the formula, so you can bond to composite. Okay, you can bond to 3D printed composites or resins. Okay, or you can bond to indirect composite restorations, milled or made, hand-free. You can use this type of primer. So MDP on its own, it's awesome. When used in combination with other things, you actually can expand the different structures that you can bond to. So that is super, super interesting, okay? So what do I want you guys to understand? That using an MDP-containing product gives you versatility. Now, not all formulas are the same. An adhesive that contains MDP is not necessarily better than one that doesn't contain MDP, because it's also depending on the formula, how the company, the manufacturer, their R&D formulates the adhesive, okay, that contains the MDP. But MDP as a standalone functional monomer is one of the coolest monomers out there. And that is why a lot of people are talking about MDP, and a lot of emphasis is being done in the marketing brochures and key opinion leaders talking, oh, this product, it contains MDP. It gives you the versatility. And nowadays, when you talk about MDP, it almost gives you reassurance, okay? So MDP used to be handled only by one company, but now it's handled by many companies, and is in many formulas of different products out there. So many different products that contain MDP. And I gotta tell you, I've done a lot of zirconia bonding in the past 15 years. And zirconia bonding is definitely possible because of the MDP. So we owe zirconia bonding to MDP. We owe nanolayering to MDP. And the versatility of the MDP provides, something like ease of use, consolidation. When you have a primer that contains MDP, right there you can bond to metal, to zirconia, and depending on the formula, you can bond to a composite, or if it's in an adhesive, you can bond to the tooth structure. So this is important to understand. MDP is one of the most versatile and used functional monomers in dentistry. Okay, so if you are out there and you read a brochure, or you listen to a webinar, or you go to a presentation and somebody mentions MDP, and you're like, okay, now you know. Now you know that MDP is the driving force behind the bonding to zirconia, to metal, and in some cases to the tooth structure when MDP is part of the dental adhesive formula. Now, you might think, why is this important? What can I do with this information? Well, it is important to know what actually promotes the bonding in your products. Okay, you want to know what is it in that formula that promotes the bonding. And prior to MDP, people didn't know what the functional monomer was in their bonding agents. And I'm pretty sure today, not everybody knows what the functional monomer is in their adhesive or cement. However, more and more people know about this. And MDP has become, in so many cases, almost a must. I have seen tender. And a tender is when, this is not in the US, I have seen this from overseas, where a health department or let's say a large dental, clinic in a university is requesting quotations to buy products, right? And they have to be generic. They cannot ask things like, oh, we want 500 units of All Bond Universal. No, they have to be generic. And I've seen a lot of 500 units, they're requesting the price for 500 units of a universal bonding agent that contains MDP. So that's interesting because that is very specific, and that will weed out all the universal adhesives that don't contain MDP. It's interesting because MDP has almost become part of the generic descriptor of many, many different products. I'm going to share with you 3 tips that I want you to take home from this podcast today. Road tip number 1. If you're going to bond to zirconia, make sure that whatever you use, whether it's a cement or a primer or an adhesive, contains MDP. Okay? We already have an episode of how to bond to zirconia. I'm not going to explain that today. You can go back and, watch that episode or listen to that episode. I go deep into how to bond to zirconia. But if you're going to bond to zirconia, you need that the material that you're going to use contains MDP. Second road tip. If you're using a universal bonding agent that contains MDP or a bonding agent that contains MDP in self-etch mode, that's where MDP is interesting because MDP needs to react with the dentin, not with the collagen. When you total etch, your adhesive will seal, but when you do self-etch, that's when you're going to get that nano-layering, that deposition of calcium and phosphate. That is where MDP is actually super interesting in self-etch mode to dentin. So that's something to consider. Whatever product you use that contains MDP adhesive, you need to think about using it in self-etch mode on dentin. If you want to do selective etch, that's probably better. But on dentin, you want to do self-etch mode. That's where MDP shines, right there. And the last road tip that I want to share with you is that MDP is the same. Always. It's a molecule. It's 10 MDP. What's different is the formula. The amount of, in a dental adhesive, for example, the amount of MDP, the amount of water, the amount of solvent, the amount of other monomers, such as HEMA, if that is going to be included, such as, bis-GMA, camphorquinone, or whatever initiator is included in the formula. The amount of MDP and the combination of that amount of MDP and the other components is what makes a formula of a specific dental adhesive. But MDP as a molecule is always the same. That doesn't mean that all MDP products behave the same. They are going to behave differently, but they all share characteristics, features, and benefits, okay? So take those 3 road tips, take all this information about MDP, and I hope it makes you rationalize your decision when, purchasing a product or when, what product do you want to use for this specific procedure? You know what I'm saying? Let's go. Let's review this beer, my dear friends. But before we review the beer, let's not forget to like, to share, to follow, to subscribe. So, beer review time. This one is called Lil Lucy. Now, is it Lil Lucy or Lil Lucy? Well, probably Lucy. It's only one C. Lil Lucy. This is, like I said, a hazy IPA session hazy IPA. And unfortunately, those of you who are listening cannot see this, but I will describe it. The color is yellow, light orange, kind of. It is very hazy. It is fruity, and it is a little bit bitter. Now, did it match the brewery description? It says tropical theme IPA, definitely tropical. You can sense the mango, you can sense the berries. With notes of pine, mango, and an array of berries. It does match that. It has that piney floral feel of an IPA. And it is very fruity. Now, here's where it gets interesting. A touch of lactose and modest grain bill. I don't even know what that means. However, I don't even know what lactose tastes like, okay? But this one, definitely mango-y, definitely piney, and definitely berry-y. So it's pretty awesome. Will I have this again?
Sip, sip, sip.
For sure. This is a great beer for a hot day, for a hot summer day. It's craft beer. It tastes great. I feel you can have this with friends sitting outside and just enjoying the moment. Wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Definitely something that I will have again. What is the score I'm going to give this guy? I'm going to give it a 3.95. Okay, a 3.95. Why am I giving it a 3.95? Because it's an IPA, and I have very high expectations for IPAs all the time. I expect for IPAs to be bitter and to punch me in the face with the aftertaste. This one doesn't, but it does have a certain level of bitterness and a certain level of aftertaste that is not a bad one. This is a good beer. This is an interesting beer, and this is a beer that I will have again with any of my friends. Okay, so that's your score. Let's go. Questions and answers. Q&A. So, again, you can send your questions to bondingandbeer@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at bondingandbeer. This is a question from Dr. Ethan Del Rey. Is bonding to zirconia possible without MDP? There are some functional monomers that were kind of able to generate a little bit of bonding, but it was never significant. MDP is, in my mind, the best monomer, adhesion-promoting monomer to bond to zirconia. Without MDP, we couldn't be doing non-retentive preparations with zirconia, like veneers, No, it wouldn't be possible. So, in a nutshell, is bonding to zirconia possible without MDP? I want to say MDP provides the best bonding to zirconia right now. Okay? Question number 2 from Dr. Olivia Ava. What products contain MDP? Is it reserved to only certain adhesives or primers? That's a great question. What product contains MDP? Universal bonding agents, some 6th generation bonding agents, some 7th generation bonding agents, which we shouldn't even consider. So, you have your 2-bottle system self-etch mode, and then you have your universal bonding agents, right? Those have MDP. Primers contain MDP, right? And some cements contain MDP. And I'm going to provide you with a list of whatever comes on top of my head. The 3M adhesive, Scotch-Brite Universal contains MDP. We're talking about dental adhesives. The new adhesive from Kerr, OptiBond 360 contains MDP. I believe the adhesive from Boco contains MDP, which I believe is called FutureBond DC or FutureBond. Albon Universal from Bisco contains MDP, right? And there are many more, but those are the ones that pop into my head. When it comes to primers, Monobond Plus contains MDP. Ceramic Primer Plus contains MDP. Z Prime Plus from Bisco contains MDP. Okay? And now we're talking about cements. Well, so many cements contain MDP. Panavia from Curare, Panavia SA contains MDP. The cement from 3M, Relix Universal contains MDP. I believe Speedsem contains MDP. From Bisco, we have Theracem that contains MDP. And there are probably more. I just mentioned the ones that we usually test that, from the top of my head, right?
Sip, sip, sip.
So many products contain the MDP. All you have to do is look up the brochure, look up the SDS, and you will find, the contents of the formula of the material, okay? Question number 3. This is from Dr. Ezekiel Long. I love that name. Ezekiel. Isn't Ezekiel mentioned in the movie Pulp Fiction? Jeremy? When Samuel L. Jackson said, you know, Ezekiel something. Yes, I don't even think that verse exists.
It's not a real verse.
I don't know. I will have to look it up. You guys tell me if that is a real verse. However, before he was going to shoot somebody, he will just basically start preaching Ezekiel. So Dr. Long, Ezekiel Long, who is your dream podcast guest? Oh, dude. I have a lot of people. There is a lot of people that I would love
Sip, sip.
to have here. But one of my favorite people, two of my favorite people are already, you know, involved with us. And one of them is Adamo. The other one is a mystery guest. And I'm not going to mention who he is because it's a surprise. But Adamo was Dr. Amanda C., for sure. I would love to have her here. I would love to talk to her about composites. She is just a wealth of knowledge. There are so. Oh, here we go. I would love to have like John Coyce. I would love to have John Coyce here. I would love to have Brian Baliwas. He looks like he's a ton of fun. You know, SF Dental Nerd for sure. Have him here. Dr. Spears. That will be crazy to have, you know, Coyce, to be able to have Spear. Dr. John Crane from the Dawson Center. I mean, there are so many dental stars out there. Chris Coachman, for sure. We'll love to have him here. And then, of course, people from my neck of the woods, like Milko Villarroel, I would love to have him here, too. Victor Guerrero, you know, those guys. They're just great. There's so many. There are so many people out there that know so much dentistry. It will be great to have him here. But, you know, like if John Coyce says, I will go to your podcast, but I don't drink beer. And then we're not inviting Dr. Coyce, with all due respect. I mean, we love Dr. Coyce, but if he's not going to drink a beer with us, and then what are we doing? You know, like we need to keep it real. We need to keep it real. Same thing with Dr. Spears. Oh, I don't drink beer. Well, you know, Dr. Spears, thank you very much. You know, thank you very much. I'm joking. I think if Dr. Coyce decides, if for some crazy reason we're able to get him on the podcast, I will refrain myself from drinking a beer. I will do a review, but I wouldn't mind if he doesn't drink. Same thing with Dr. Spears, okay? So I will take that back. My feelings will be hurt, but I will definitely move forward with them because they deserve, you know, the ability to share the most amount of information with the most amount of people possible. So that's a wrap for today's episode of Bonding and Beer. Make sure you like, you comment, you share, and you subscribe. Next time, next episode, we're going to be talking about post-op sensitivity. I know I already did something about this, but we're going to have a mystery guest. So make sure you email us your questions about post-op sensitivity so we can cover them with our mystery guest. Thank you for tuning in to Bonding and Beer. My name is Rolando Nunez. I am here drinking a Lil Lucy, and we will see you next episode. Let's freaking go. You know, I was bamboozled by our production team. They gave me a beer that was shaken and then everything. There was beer all over. And they thought it was funny. And they thought that this is going to be great content. And it was.